AITA for exposing my wife's motel affair after seeing what my anger did to me. My name is Josh, I'm 37, and I live in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, where most of my life used to be pretty predictable. I had been married to Megan for 9 years, and for a long time, I thought our marriage was just going through one of those dull, tired seasons people warn you about. I didn't think I was about to become the guy sitting across from a divorce attorney with a folder full of motel receipts and ring camera clips. Megan was 35, organized in the way that made other people feel messy, and she worked in administration for a regional supply company. We had a townhouse with a small patch of grass out front, a ring camera by the door, a shared mortgage that made me check my bank app more often than I liked, and a routine that used to feel safe. I drove a beat-up pickup with safety glasses, a hard hat, and old fast food napkins in the back seat. Megan drove a dark blue SUV with a cracked phone mount on the dashboard. We weren't exciting anymore, but I thought we were still a team. That was the word I kept coming back to. Team. We paid bills together. We argued over whose turn it was to unload the dishwasher. We ordered takeout from the same Thai place on Fridays when neither of us wanted to cook. She hated when I left work boots by the kitchen mat. I hated when she started laundry and forgot it in the washer until it smelled weird. Normal married stuff. Then, slowly, things changed. At first, it was nothing dramatic. Megan stayed late at work more often. She said the company was short-staffed and she had to cover for people. I believed her. My job had busy seasons too, and I knew what it felt like to come home too tired to talk. Then she stopped plugging her phone in on the kitchen counter. For years, both of us charged our phones in the kitchen at night. It was one of those accidental habits that became part of the house. Then one evening, I noticed her phone wasn't there. Charging it upstairs? I asked. She looked up too fast from rinsing a coffee mug. Yeah. What? No reason. She dried the mug harder than necessary. You don't have to monitor where my phone is. That caught me off guard. I hadn't meant anything by it. I actually apologized, which sounds ridiculous now, but at the time I thought maybe I had been tense, and it came out wrong. A week later, I reached for her purse to move it off a dining chair so I could sit down with my plate. She snapped, "Don't touch that." I froze with my hand half on the strap. She saw my face and softened her tone immediately. "Sorry, I just have work stuff in there." I nodded and ate dinner while pretending I hadn't felt the room shift. The phone password changed next. Then, location sharing got turned off. She said it was draining her battery, which would have been more believable if she didn't own 3 portable chargers and treat battery percentage like a medical condition. When I asked about it, she sighed like I had asked to install cameras in her car. "You're making me feel like I need permission to breathe, Josh." That sentence shut me up for days. Nobody wants to be the jealous husband. Nobody wants to be the guy checking up on his wife like he owns her. I started second-guessing every instinct I had. Maybe I was stressed. Maybe long hours, bills, and that dull panic of middle adulthood were making me suspicious. Maybe Megan really did need space, and I was crowding her. She started going out for drinks with friends on random weeknights. She put more effort into her hair before work. It was not full glam or anything that obvious, just enough that I noticed. A different blouse. A little perfume. New earrings she said were on sale. When I said she looked nice, she didn't smile the way she used to. She just said, "Thanks," and checked her phone. The name Ryan first came up in a completely normal way. He was a coworker. Megan called him basically harmless. He was 34, recently divorced, worked in operations, and apparently couldn't figure out Excel without calling Megan after hours. One night around 10:45, her phone buzzed while we were watching a rerun of some home renovation show. She flipped it face down so fast the movement had its own sound. "Work?" I asked. She didn't look at me. "Yeah." At almost 11? "It's Ryan. He messed up a vendor file." I waited a second. "Can it wait until morning?" She paused the TV and turned toward me. "Do you want me to lose my job because you're insecure?" That was the first time she used that word. Insecure. After that, every question had a label. If I asked why she was home late, I was jealous. If I asked who was going out, I was controlling. If I asked why Ryan called so much, I was acting crazy. The phone bill was what made the fog start to clear. We had a shared Verizon family plan, and I was reviewing expenses one Sunday morning because the mortgage had gone up after an escrow adjustment. I wasn't snooping at first. I was sitting at the kitchen table with coffee, my laptop, and a calculator app, trying to figure out where our money was going. Then I saw Ryan's number. Repeated late-night calls. Not message contents, just logs. Calls after 10 p.m. Calls on nights Megan said she was exhausted and going straight to bed. Calls during her nights out. Calls when she had told me she was at Tara's house watching movies. I recognized the number because she had once asked me to save it as an emergency contact when she was dealing with a work delivery issue. At the time, that had seemed normal. I stared at the screen so long my coffee went cold. When I asked her about it, I tried to keep my voice calm. Megan, why are there so many calls with Ryan after 10? She was putting groceries away. She didn't even turn around. Because work doesn't stop at 5. This many times. She slammed the freezer door. Do you hear yourself? You're reading phone records like a detective because my coworker called me. I was checking the bill. Sure. Megan. She turned then, arms crossed. No, I'm not doing this. You don't get to make your paranoia my problem. That word landed harder than insecurity. Paranoia. For the next month, I tried to be better. That is what I told myself. I stopped asking where she was going unless she volunteered it. I made dinner more often. I suggested a weekend away. She said she was too tired. I asked if she wanted marriage counseling. She said maybe, then never picked a date. Some nights, she came home smelling like outside air and mint gum. She would kiss my cheek, not my mouth. She would go upstairs to shower before sitting down. She would say she had a headache if I tried to get close. I lived in that ugly space between suspicion and proof, where every small thing feels huge, but still not enough. Then came Thursday. I remember it because it had rained earlier, and my boots left gray half-moons on the mat by the garage door. I got home around 6:30, sore and hungry, with a stack of invoices on the passenger seat I still needed to scan. Megan wasn't home. At 7:12, she texted, I'm at Tara's. I just need quiet tonight. Please don't make this a thing. I sat on the edge of the couch and read it twice. Tara lived in Dublin, northwest of us. I knew that because we had been to her house for a summer cookout, and I remembered the weird driveway angle because I scraped the bottom of my truck backing out. I typed, okay, be safe. Then I deleted it. Then I typed, do you want me to bring you anything? Deleted that too. Finally, I sent, okay. I heated leftover pasta and ate it standing at the kitchen counter. The house felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes the refrigerator sound loud. I tried watching TV, but I kept checking my phone. Around 8:20, I opened our joint checking account because a supplier refund had come through and I wanted to make sure it posted. That is when I saw the pending debit charge. A gas station off Highway 33. Not near Tara. Not even close. It was east, near a stretch of road with budget hotels, truck stops, and a small motel I passed sometimes on job routes. I remember my hand getting cold around the phone. There could have been an explanation. Maybe she stopped there for gas before heading somewhere else. Maybe Tara had moved and I forgot. Maybe the bank app labeled the location wrong. I sat there trying to build excuses for her like I was getting paid by the hour. Then I grabbed my keys. I told myself I wasn't going to confront anyone. I told myself I was only driving past the area so my brain would stop chewing on it. I told myself if I didn't see anything, I would go home and apologize to her in the morning for doubting her in my own head. I didn't want to catch her. I wanted the charge to have some simple explanation. My pickup still had the dash cam running because I used it for job site driving and insurance protection. It turned on automatically when the truck started. I didn't think about that at the time. I was too busy gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me in my body. The motel sign was half-lit, buzzing in the damp evening air. A couple of work trucks were parked near the front. There was a vending machine glowing by the office and numbered exterior doors along the building. I slowed down before the entrance. And there it was. Megan's dark blue SUV, backed into a space near the back, half hidden behind a white work van. Same cracked phone mount on the dashboard. Same small dent near the rear bumper from when she backed into our trash cans 2 winters earlier. Seeing her SUV there felt worse than seeing a text. A car doesn't accidentally park behind a motel. I pulled across the street into a closed auto parts store lot and parked under a dead security light. My hands were shaking so badly I had to press them flat against my jeans. I sat there for about 20 minutes. I thought about leaving. I really did. I thought about driving home and waiting, pretending I didn't know. I thought about calling Caleb, my older brother, because he was the only person who could talk me out of doing something foolish. But I didn't call him. I just sat there, staring at room 114. Then the door opened. Megan came out first. She was wearing the black blouse she said was too nice for regular work. Her hair was down. She wasn't smiling, but she had that softened look people get when they have been alone with someone they shouldn't be alone with. Ryan came out behind her. They weren't kissing. They weren't holding hands. It wasn't some movie scene with lipstick and dramatic music. It was worse in a quieter way. He touched the small of her back as they stepped out, and she didn't flinch. She turned toward him like she had done it 100 times. I was out of my truck before I remembered deciding to move. Megan saw me first. Her whole face went blank. Ryan followed her gaze and actually smirked. It was not big, just enough. I crossed the street, and my voice came out lower than I expected. You told me you were at Terrace. Megan looked around the parking lot like she was worried about who might hear. Josh, please don't do this here. Do what? Notice my wife walking out of a motel room. It's not what you think. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because people really say that. I thought that line was something bad TV writers used because they were lazy. But there she was, saying it to me outside room 114. Ryan leaned against the doorframe like he had paid rent there. You need to calm down, man. I looked at him. Don't talk to me. Megan stepped between us. Josh, stop. Stop. My voice cracked. You're at a motel with Ryan, and I'm the one who needs to stop? Ryan pushed off the frame. Maybe ask yourself why she didn't want to go home. That did it. Something in my head went white. I didn't hit him. I want to be clear about that because it matters. I didn't touch Megan either. But I lost control in every other way. I shouted. I called him names. I called her a liar. I threw my old work phone onto the pavement so hard the case flew off and skidded under Megan's SUV. I pushed over a metal trash can by the vending machine, and it tipped over with a sound that made someone open a curtain 2 doors down. The motel clerk came out and yelled, I'm calling the cops if you don't leave. Ryan held up his hands like he was the reasonable one. See? This is what she deals with. I slammed my palm against the hood of my own truck when I got back to it. The metal rang. My hand throbbed. Megan was crying by then, but I couldn't tell if it was fear, shame, or panic because she had been caught. Maybe all three. Josh, she said, please just go home. Don't you dare come home and act like I imagined this. Ryan said, I'm not the reason your marriage is broken. I remember the sound of my phone breaking, and for 1 second, it felt good. That scared me later more than anything Ryan said. I drove off before the police came, shaking so hard I missed the turn out of the lot and had to cut through the gas station. The dash cam was still running. It caught enough audio. It caught enough video. At the time, I didn't care. I just wanted to get away from the sight of them. Megan followed me home. Our Ring camera caught her coming up the walkway about 15 minutes after I pulled into the driveway. I didn't remember the camera then. I was too angry to remember anything useful. She came through the door crying. You humiliated me, she said. I was standing in the living room, still in my work pants, still with drywall dust on my boots. I humiliated you. You showed up screaming at me in public. At a motel. You made everything public when you came there. I stared at her. You were in room 114 with him. She threw her purse onto the couch. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. So you checked into a motel? She wiped her face with both hands. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. That sentence hit harder than a confession because it wasn't denial. It was regret about the circumstances. It only happened because you were never there emotionally, she said. I went still. So it did happen. That's not what I meant. You just said it. You twist everything. The Ring audio wasn't perfect. There was wind and traffic from the street, and we were inside part of the time. But the porch camera caught enough. It caught her saying it only happened because I was never there emotionally. It caught me saying, so it did happen. It caught her saying, that's not what I meant. Inside, everything got worse. I wish I could tell you I stayed calm after that. I wish I could say I walked upstairs, packed a bag, and called an attorney. That is what I should have done. Instead, I broke things. I picked up one of our wedding photo frames from the entry table and threw it against the floor. The glass shattered across the hardwood. Megan screamed my name. I grabbed another frame from the wall, one from our honeymoon in Asheville, and threw that too. You're scaring me, she said. I looked at her, and for a second I hated that she was right. But I didn't stop. I swept my arm across the kitchen counter and knocked 2 glasses, a candle, and a small ceramic dish onto the floor. The candle rolled under the table. The glasses broke. I dragged a suitcase down from the hall closet and started throwing clothes into it, not even checking what belonged to me. Socks, shirts, one of her sweaters by accident. I was moving like if I stopped, the pain would catch me. Megan stood near the hallway, crying. Josh, please. Please what? I snapped. Please don't make your inappropriate relationship inconvenient. You're acting insane. That word found the worst part of me. I picked up a wedding album from the coffee table and threw it against the couch. It didn't break, obviously, but pages bent and loose photos slid out onto the rug. I injured my hand picking up a piece of glass without thinking. It was not severe, but it was enough to make me pause. I remember looking at my palm and feeling suddenly embarrassed, like a grown man caught having a tantrum. The neighbor called the police because of the yelling and crashing. 2 officers came to the door. By then, I was sitting on the bottom step with my suitcase half-packed in the living room. Megan was in the kitchen with tissues in her hand. The officers separated us. One took Megan outside near the porch. The other talked to me in the living room. Did you touch her? He asked. No. Did you threaten her? No. Did you break these things? I looked at the glass on the floor, the crooked empty spaces on the wall, the wedding photos face down like evidence from someone else's life. Yes. He wrote that down. They photographed the damage. They asked if either of us wanted medical attention. Megan said no. I said no. One officer looked at my hand and handed me a paper towel anyway. He asked me if I understood how bad this looked. I said yes, because I finally did. No one was arrested that night, but there was a report. A neighbor noise complaint. Property damage documented. A domestic disturbance call attached to my name and my address. It was the kind of thing that can follow you into court even if nobody gets charged. I spent the night at Caleb's house. Caleb is 39, a little grayer than me, and the kind of brother who doesn't waste words when you're being an idiot. He opened the door in sweatpants, looked at my face, then at the suitcase, and said, "Basement couch is made up." I sat at his kitchen table while his wife slept upstairs and told him everything in broken pieces. When I finished, he didn't say Megan was awful. He didn't say Ryan deserved it. He said, "Give me your phone." Why? Because you're going to text something stupid. I need to defend myself. No, you need to shut up. That made me angry for about 3 seconds. Then I saw the family group chat lighting up. Megan had already started. She wrote that I had shown up at a motel for no reason, screamed at her in public, followed her home, destroyed the house, and made her afraid. She said I had been paranoid for months and that my jealousy had become unbearable. She did not mention room 114. She did not mention Ryan walking out behind her. She did not mention the gas station charge or the phone calls or the fact that she admitted it in our driveway. Linda, Megan's mother, texted me privately first. "Josh, give Megan space. You scared my daughter tonight." Then in the group chat she wrote, "Marriage is not something you throw away after one ugly night." One ugly night. As if the ugly night started when I showed up. Megan's sister added, "You both need counseling, but Josh needs to take accountability first." Ryan, I later found out, told people at work that I had been stalking Megan and that he only happened to be nearby when I lost it. The word unstable started floating around. I typed a response in the group chat 3 separate times. Ask Megan why her SUV was at a motel. Deleted. Ryan came out of the room with her. Deleted. You people are covering for someone who broke their vows. Deleted. Caleb watched me from across the table. Stop texting. Screenshot everything. They're making me sound crazy. Then don't help them. I'm not going to just sit here. Being right won't help if you act stupid. I hated how calm he sounded. I also knew he was right. So I stopped. The next morning, I started collecting everything. Not to prove I was innocent. I wasn't. I had broken things. I had scared people. I had given Megan a real incident to point at. I was trying to prove I wasn't insane. I saved the dashcam file from my truck to my laptop and then to the cloud. It didn't show every angle perfectly, but it showed me arriving across the street. It showed Megan's SUV in the motel lot. It caught enough of Ryan's voice when he said, "Maybe ask yourself why she didn't want to go home." It caught the motel clerk yelling. It caught me shouting too, which hurt to listen to. I downloaded the Verizon call logs showing Ryan's number over and over. I took screenshots of the joint checking account, including the pending gas station charge. Then I found the motel receipt. It showed up by email because the joint debit card had been used. Megan must have either forgotten the account email was mine too, or assumed I wouldn't check. The motel name, date, time, and amount were right there. Room charges. One night. Paid with our joint card. I stared at that receipt for a long time, not because I needed more proof, but because the audacity of it was almost impressive. She had used our money. Not cash. Not some secret card. Our money. I downloaded the ring clip. The audio was messy but usable. I saved the family chat screenshots. I photographed the damage I had caused from every angle. Broken frames, scratched kitchen table, glassware, scuffed drywall where one frame had hit. I asked a local repair company for an estimate and priced replacement frames myself. Then I called a divorce attorney. Her name was Denise, and she had an office in a brick building with bad parking and a waiting room full of plants that looked healthier than I felt. She was in her mid-40s, direct, and not interested in dramatic speeches. I brought a folder like people do in movies, except mine was ugly and practical, with bank statements sticking out and a bandage on my hand. Denise reviewed everything without changing expression. Dashcam, ring clip, phone records, motel receipt, police report, photos of the broken property. When she finished, she folded her hands. Evidence is useful, she said. Rage is not. I nodded. You need to repair what you damaged and stop direct contact. Do not argue with her family. Do not post online. Do not confront Ryan. Do not go back to that motel. Do not confuse vindication with strategy. I know I messed up. Good. Keep saying that when it's true. But don't let them use your misconduct to erase hers. That was the first sentence anyone had said that made me feel like I could breathe. Denise advised me on separating finances legally. She told me what I could and couldn't freeze, what needed documentation, and what might look bad if I acted impulsively. Under her guidance, I opened a separate checking account for my paychecks going forward. We froze the joint credit card the proper way. I kept paying my share of required bills until the temporary arrangements were filed. I also called the insurance company and told the truth about the property damage. Some things weren't worth claiming, and some weren't covered the way I thought. I paid out of pocket for replacement frames, broken kitchenware, and repair work to the scratched table and wall. I kept every invoice. Denise also told me something I didn't like hearing. Anger management, she said. I'm not abusive. I didn't call you abusive. I said you need anger management. A police report with broken household items is serious. You can either address it before someone makes you, or you can wait until it's used against you. So I started going. The first session was humiliating. Sitting in a small office under fluorescent lights while a counselor asked me what I felt in my body before I broke things was not how I pictured my life. But I went. Then I went again. I learned that anger can feel clean when everything else feels humiliating, but that doesn't make it safe. Meanwhile, Megan kept trying to control the story. She sent messages like, "I'm willing to talk when you can admit what you did." I didn't respond. Then, I never wanted things to go this far. No response. Then, "Ryan was a mistake, but you destroyed our home." That one almost got me. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Caleb's voice lived rent-free in my head by then. Stop texting. Screenshot everything. So I screenshotted it and sent it to Denise. About 2 weeks after the motel night, I found the part that changed how I saw Linda. While organizing bank records, I noticed transfers I had made to her over the past few months. I remembered them, but I hadn't connected them to anything. Linda had asked me for help twice, $900 each time, total $1,800. She said Megan had gotten behind on a credit card after helping a friend and was embarrassed to tell me. Linda said she wanted to keep peace in the marriage and help Megan avoid late fees before it became a bigger issue. At the time, I thought it was weird, but Linda had always been dramatic about money. Megan confirmed vaguely that she had some stuff she was handling and thanked me for not making her feel worse. So I sent the money. Now, with the records spread across Caleb's dining table, I started looking at dates. One transfer to Linda was followed the next day by a payment from Megan's personal account at a restaurant near Ryan's apartment. Another lined up with gas station charges near the Highway 33 motel. Then there was a motel payment days later, not the same one I caught, but the same chain. I couldn't prove every dollar flowed directly. Money isn't that neat. But the timing was ugly. Then I found an old text from Linda. Be patient with her. She's confused right now, but she loves the life you two have built. At the time, I thought she meant Megan was stressed. Now I read it differently. I called Caleb and told him. He was quiet for a second, which was rare. Then he said, "She knew." I think so. No. She knew something. That realization made me colder than the motel did. At the motel, I felt rage. With Linda, I felt used. She hadn't just asked me to forgive her daughter. She had let me fund the lie. A few days later, Linda invited me to her house to talk like adults. Her exact text was, "We need to sit down as a family. You and Megan have both made mistakes, and this can still be repaired if everyone is humble." I showed it to Denise. She said, "You don't have to go. I want them to stop saying I invented it. Then bring copies. Not originals. Keep your voice low. Leave if it escalates." Caleb said almost the same thing, just less professionally. Copies only. No yelling. No insults. No begging. If they start performing, walk. I went there with one rule for myself. No yelling. No insults. No begging. Linda lived about 20 minutes away in a neat house with a porch swing nobody ever sat on. When I pulled up, Megan's SUV was already there. I parked on the street instead of the driveway because I wanted an easy exit. I had a folder with printed copies. Paper mattered with Linda and Bill. Screenshots on a phone could be waved away. Printed bank statements on a dining table felt harder to ignore. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and lemon cleaner. Linda had mugs set out like this was a church committee meeting. Megan sat at the table with red eyes, no makeup, and a sweatshirt I bought her during a weekend trip to Cleveland. Bill sat at the end of the table, quiet, hands wrapped around a coffee mug he didn't drink from. Megan's sister was there too, which nobody had mentioned. Linda opened with a sigh. "Josh, you need to understand what you did to my daughter." I sat down slowly. I understand what I did. My daughter was terrified. I believe she was scared. Megan looked up, surprised. I continued. I broke things. I yelled. I acted in a way I'm ashamed of. I have already started paying for repairs, and I'm in counseling. Linda's face softened like she thought she had won. "That's good," she said. "That's the first step. Marriage is not something you throw away after one ugly night." I looked at Megan. She looked down. Megan's sister leaned forward. "All marriages have rough patches. What matters is whether you're willing to be the bigger person." I almost laughed again, but this time I didn't. Linda said, "You both made mistakes, but you need to be the bigger person." I kept my hands flat on the table. I'm still waiting for everyone else to understand what she did. Megan wiped her cheek. "I already said Ryan was a mistake." "No," I said. "You said that after you got caught." Linda stiffened. "This is exactly the tone we're talking about." "My tone is fine. You can call me angry," I said. "You don't get to call me crazy." Bill's eyes moved from me to Linda. He hadn't spoken yet. Linda said, "Money has nothing to do with this. The issue is safety. The issue is how you reacted. The issue is both." Then I opened the folder. I placed the motel receipt on the table first. Date, time, amount, joint card. Megan stopped crying. Not gradually. She just stopped. Then I placed the phone records next to it. Ryan's number highlighted. Calls after 10. Calls on nights. She said she was at Terrace. Calls that lined up with gas station charges. Then the still image from the dash cam. Megan's SUV backed into the motel parking space. Room 114 in the background. Linda's mouth tightened. I placed a transcript I had typed from the Ring clip, with a note that the audio file had also been saved. "Megan, it only happened because you were never there emotionally." "Josh, so it did happen." "Megan, that's not what I meant." Megan whispered, "You recorded me?" I looked at her. Our doorbell recorded our front porch. Finally, I placed the bank statements showing the transfers to Linda and the charges that lined up afterward. Linda reached for the papers, then pulled her hand back like they were hot. I said the sentence I had practiced in my truck until it didn't shake. "I will pay for every broken glass and every frame I smashed. But I won't pay for a marriage everyone in this room helped turn into a lie." Nobody spoke. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. Somewhere down the hall, a clock ticked too loudly. Linda recovered first. "This is disgusting," she said. "You're twisting private family matters." "Private family matters?" I asked. "You borrowed money from me and told me it was for Megan's debt." "It was." "Then why did the spending line up with Ryan, the motel, and every lie she told me?" Megan said, "Mom didn't know everything." That was not the defense she thought it was. Bill finally put his mug down. "Megan," he said quietly, "how long?" "Dad, how long?" "It's complicated." Bill's jaw tightened. "Answer him." Megan looked at me, then at Linda, then back down at the table. "It wasn't constant. I felt something in me detach. Not in a dramatic way. It was more like a door quietly closing. No, I said. The divorce can be complicated. The lying was simple. Linda snapped. Divorce? You're going to throw away 9 years because she made a mistake and you had a tantrum. Bull turned to her. Linda, stop talking for a second. She looked offended, but he didn't take it back. He picked up the motel receipt, then the bank statement. His face looked older than it had when I walked in. Josh, he said, I don't like how you handled that night. Neither do I. But these papers matter. Linda said, Bill. He didn't look at her. They matter. That was all I needed. Not a full apology. Not a confession from Linda. Not Megan falling apart and admitting every detail. I realized I didn't need them to validate what I knew. Their silence did enough. Megan reached across the table. Josh, please. I didn't want to lose you. I looked at her hand, but didn't touch it. No. You wanted to keep me and have him. Her face crumpled, and for a second I saw the woman I had married. The one who cried during dumb dog rescue commercials. The one who once drove 40 minutes to bring me a dry shirt when a job site pipe burst. The one I kept trying to find inside the person sitting across from me. But wanting that version back didn't make this version honest. I stood up. Linda said, Don't walk out like this. I'm walking out exactly like this. Megan followed me to the entryway. Can we talk alone? She whispered. No. Josh. Attorneys only. You're punishing me. I turned, not yelling, not shaking, not breaking anything. I'm protecting myself from you. Then I left. Outside, I sat in my truck for 1 minute before starting it. Not because I was hesitating, because my hands were steady, and that felt unfamiliar enough to notice. The weeks after that were not clean or easy. Divorce is paperwork and waiting and bills and small humiliations. It is deciding who gets the couch. It is logging into accounts you built together and changing passwords. It is your name beside someone else's on forms that now feel like evidence of bad judgment. Megan tried to call me several times. I didn't answer. She sent long emails. Some were apologetic, some were angry, and some were written like she was the injured party who had been forced into bad choices by my emotional absence. Denise handled most of it. Ryan backed away fast once he learned his name was in my attorney's file and that the dashcam had captured his comments in the motel parking lot. It is funny how casual arrogance shrinks when it becomes documentation. Megan's family stopped texting me after the dining room meeting. Linda sent one message weeks later that said, I hope one day you can see how much pain you caused too. I didn't respond. Bill called once. I let it go to voicemail. He said, Josh, I'm sorry for what I didn't ask sooner. I hope you keep getting help. I mean that. I saved it, not because it fixed anything, but because it was the closest anyone in that family came to saying the truth out loud. I moved into a short-term apartment near one of our job sites while the townhouse situation got sorted. It had beige walls, 1 pan, 2 towels, and a neighbor upstairs who walked like he was punishing the floor. It wasn't home, but it was quiet. I kept going to anger management. I learned to notice the moment before escalation. The tight jaw, the heat in the chest. The story your brain tells you that breaking something will release pressure without creating more damage. It is a lie. It always creates more damage. I paid for the broken frames. I paid for the scratch table. I replaced the glassware. I documented every receipt and sent copies through Denise. Not because Megan deserved a perfect exit from what she did, but because I didn't want to become the kind of man who hides behind betrayal to avoid accountability. I didn't post about Ryan. I didn't call his job. I didn't drive by the motel again. I didn't send screenshots to everyone we knew, even though there were nights I wanted to. Denise's voice stayed in my head. Do not confuse vindication with strategy. The divorce moved forward. Megan had to face divided assets, her own car payment, her own insurance situation, and the fact that the story she told first wasn't the only one with evidence behind it. Linda couldn't guilt me into funding stability anymore. Ryan didn't get to be the harmless coworker in the background. And me? I didn't get to walk away spotless, but I got to walk away honest. That mattered more than I expected. There are still mornings when I think about the motel sign buzzing in the wet air. There are still moments when I remember Megan's face when she saw me in that parking lot. I remember the crack of the wedding frame hitting the floor too. I don't skip that part when I tell myself the truth. Being betrayed did not give me permission to scare people. It did not give me permission to destroy a home. It did not make my anger noble. But my ugly reaction also did not erase her affair. It did not erase months of lying. It did not erase Ryan's part, or Linda's pressure, or the money trail, or the way everyone tried to make my anger the whole story because it was easier than admitting what came before it. The truth saved me, but only after I stopped acting like rage was proof that I was right. Now I keep the evidence where it belongs, in my attorney's file, not on social media. I answer through proper channels. I pay what I owe. I go to work. I come home to a quiet apartment. Some nights I eat cereal over the sink because I still haven't bought a real dining table. It isn't instant happiness. It isn't some big cinematic victory. It is just peace, slowly returning. And after what I almost let myself become that night, peace is enough. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.